Hi, happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the very last cultural insight of the week where I have been doing 10 cultural insights in 5 days. It is Friday at 2:31. I am cramming to get through what I need to get done before my other job starts on the weekends, that of being a solo parent. So I'm going to make this short and sweet for you today. So those of you who've been following along know that every day in my newsletter, I've set a cultural insight. And then in the afternoon at 2:30, I've gone live. If you have missed those or want to catch up on those, please go to my website, bethnapleton.com, and sign up at the yellow pop-up that comes up on the bottom. I'm going to be sending some sort of synthesis out in the next week or so. And I'm also going to want your input to see if you have what your thoughts were and how this went, and see if this kind of content is valuable in the future to you as a leader. But before I do all that, that's next week. And I owe you the answer to one more question, which is, what is the smallest thing I can do to improve culture? So this morning's newsletter was one of my favorites. It talked about one of my favorite strategies for boosting culture and morale in a building, which is starting a meeting with wins, right? It's easy, it's simple. You can rinse and repeat it every week, which as a leader to me is one of those really useful cultural strategies. And it doesn't require a lot extra other than maybe a lot in the first 5 or 10 minutes of a meeting. So in that spirit of small, and I believe in starting small because I think that it's easy, it makes it easier to start. What is the smallest thing that you can do to change culture? This is a little bit of a trick question because I don't know the answer to this, because I am not you. I am not in your school. I am not in your head. I don't know what your capacity is. I don't know how much fire you have in your belly to take this on. So I can't look at all the possibilities and say, here is the one that I would start with. What I will do is share some ideas. It could be as easy as starting meetings with wins. Maybe not every meeting, but maybe the weekly staff meeting. It could be starting with a connector to just say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing and why? It could be a whip around, share a fun thing you did this weekend or a bright spot from our students. Lots and lots and lots of possibilities that you can use, right? It can be as simple as smile in the hallway when you pass people. Say hello to everyone you see in the hallway. Open the door whenever you get the chance for students, teachers, whoever's coming through. It can be maybe an internal shift that you're making. Maybe you have a bad attitude, and I use that phrase with love because I use that phrase on myself all the time, but maybe you have a bad attitude about something and you need to take just like a sheet of paper and write a note to yourself and stick it in the top of your laptop screen to remind you to embrace a growth mindset, or to remind you that there's always something positive. For a long time, I was really pushing to make my school more asset-based, to make sure that people in my community, parents, students, teachers, were always looking at the assets in a situation and weren't so deficit-focused. Now, as humans, we're deficit-focused because this is what helped us survive, like the mountain lions in the jungle back in the day when we were like living in caves and inventing fire. So I get why people are deficit focused, but I just literally made these little stickers, or you could put it on little Post-its or handwrite, that just said, what are the assets here? I put one on my phone that I would pick up. I put one on my laptop that I looked at every day. I put one on the door as I left. I put one in a place where I could see it when I walked in, so that I was surrounding myself with those messages. That takes literally 13 seconds to write a few Post-its like that and stick them around your office, put them in your backpack, put them as needed. And that can start to shift the culture. So I don't know what the right answer is for you. I think it depends on what you want to shift. It depends on how you're moving forward, where you want to go. But what I do know is that cultural changes start with very small gestures. That is a very appropriate place to start. There's an old saying, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I think that's so applicable in doing work where you're doing turnaround work, or trying to improve retention, or working on improving your culture, or injecting a new strand, is that you have to be able to say, you have to take that first step. And that first step should be whatever the easiest first step is. If somebody said, Beth, I need you to run a marathon, I would freak out. And now we're going to start with runs, and we're going to start with 5 miles a day. And well, like, I'm not a runner. I've never been a runner. I like whatever. Maybe I would start with getting the shoes. Maybe I would just start with looking at the shoes. Maybe I would just start by Googling best running shoes for a new runner for a marathon, and just spending 2 minutes on the timer looking at it. Depending, I might be ready to start with the 5 miles. I might be ready to start purchasing the school shoes. I might only be capable of Googling best running shoes for someone, a beginning marathon runner. But whatever it is, I'm taking a step, and that step is important. And I only need to take one step. And then when do I take the next step? When I'm ready for it. But if I want to see the culture change, if I want to be a person who completes a marathon, I need to start now. I need to take the next step sooner, because that will get me to the end goal of my finishing a marathon sooner. So that's one of the things I do a lot with my clients in general. Like, what's the end goal? Where do we want to be? Where do you want to get there? How much are you feeling this burn? How much are you feeling like I need to do this? And then we work together to go from there. So I hope you've enjoyed this week. I really have. It's been super helpful for me to connect with you and share. I've loved hearing your feedback and thoughts. You can always reach out at info@bethnableton.com to share any ideas. And of course, if you subscribe to my newsletter, you just hit reply to that. I read every single email I get, and it's incredibly helpful as I work to do this work to make leadership a little bit easier, because it's just the most important work in the world. Hope you all have a great weekend. It's so good to see you. Have a great week, and thank you so much for joining.